And joining us now, Auburn head basketball coach Bruce Pearl. Coach, I imagine this is a crazy time of the year for obvious reasons with the start of the season, but now with this new era of college athletics, I mean, so many new faces on this roster. I'm sure there's a million different things that you're feeling, and also a million things that you're looking forward to learning about this team.
Well, Zach, great to be with you. I'm excited about the team. I'm cautiously optimistic. How's that?
Sure.
Which is hard for me, but I like my team. They've worked really, really hard. We've got really good depth. And you're right. We have a lot of new faces and some new pieces. And that's always, it is fun to see, what it is that they can and what it is that they can't do and how they blend into what we're doing. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a lot of these new faces at their previous stops were very good at shooting beyond the perimeter. It seems like that was an emphasis for you guys.
Yeah, I do. I think that the guys that we brought in, Aden Holloway and Denver Jones, Chaney Johnson, and Chad Baker, those four guys can all shoot the ball from the perimeter, which makes whatever offense you're running better because it opens up the floor. We didn't shoot it great last year by percentage, and we've always been a team that's been better from three than two in some ways. So hopefully that'll increase some of our scoring. Zach, there's been some rule changes this year. One of the biggest one is the secondary defender coming over to rotate over to take charges. If it's close, bang, bang, it's going to be a block by virtue of just the details of the rules. Mm-hmm. And so therefore getting to the rim is getting harder to guard and getting more important to do offensively. That's going to be one of the things that we're going to have to work on is keeping people out of our yard.
Coach, as these rules change regarding the transfer portal, does it change how you coach or how you have to prepare your team going into the season with so many new guys that weren't here a year before?
Zach, it's not about the new guys. I first of all, I don't mind the transfer portal. Transfer is not a bad word.
Sure.
I love bringing transfers in. I hate losing transfers. I don't like losing them. It's like family, and and so I don't want to teach the kids to flee. I want to teach them to fight. But that said, I've always enjoyed bringing guys in, and even back in the day when we sat them out. And so what's changed in recruiting, though, is the number of high school players that you can take, because the expectations for high school players has got to be different than it was, let's say, 5 to 10 years ago, in the sense that unless you're a top 25 high school player, your first year is not going to be, because of the COVID and because of the fifth year and the transfers and guys being older players are just better. There's a big difference between an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old. And so therefore getting old and staying old is important.
Sure. We had Denver Jones on the show last week, Coach, and he talked very highly of Aden. He thinks that he's way beyond his years, not playing like a freshman. Are you seeing similar things?
Yeah, I mean, Aden's got a real ability. He's got a real feel. He's got great range. He's a hard worker, and so therefore Aden's really prepared for these moments right now. And Denver's been around, long enough to be able to, he's seen 3 sets of freshmen. He was one himself, and this is his 4th year in college. And so he knows there's a difference when he sees it.
Yeah, sure. What an offseason for Johni Broome. It kind of seemed like he was picking up a lot of steam around the NBA draft, and fortunately he chose to come back to Auburn. And he's getting selected for a lot of preseason lists and awards. Coach, what are you expecting out of Johni Broome this season?
Well, I tell you what, if he can make as much progress this year as he did last year, that'll be great for him and great for Auburn. Coming in from mid-major, he had a lot to prove, and he proved that he could score and block shots and play at this level every night. And now what I'd like more from him is just to impact the game more defensively. He's expanded his range. He's a good 3-point shooter, and he's an outstanding passer, particularly off the perimeter. So and a little bit of ball handling. So he's got some tools in the toolbox that we're going to try to take a little bit more of advantage of. But I always want more from him on the defensive end and on the backboards.
Sure. Obviously, he and Jalen accompanied you to SEC Media Days a few weeks ago. Are those the two leaders in this locker room, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are two of the older guys, and certainly they lead by example. KD Johnson is always going to lead both by example and with his voice. It's loud. I think Chad Baker's got some leadership ability. Chris Moore is probably a guy that's been in the locker room as long as anybody, and guys respect. Trey Donaldson is another guy that definitely can lead a team and be a leader in the locker room. So I do think we have several guys that can lead. And I think the thing, Zach, for us is really the depth. When you talk about Janai Broome, it's hard not to talk about Dylan Cardwell. Sure. And recognize how good Dylan is defensively and in the air, and how much better he makes the other four guys when he's out there. It's hard to talk about Jalen Williams and his versatility as an athlete and an inside-out player. And, when we win our first game, and hopefully it'll be Baylor, but when we win our first game, Jalen Williams will become the all-time winningest player in the history of Auburn basketball. Wow. That's history. That's legacy. And he's done so coming off the bench. He's done so as a starter. In a day and age where guys don't stay 4 years, he stayed 5. And so I hope the Auburn family will always really appreciate, Jalen Williams, for that. And so, yeah, our biggest thing is just our depth. I got 2 at every position. I kind of feel like Noah.
Yeah, right. Coach, I mean, you mentioned Baylor in the season opener. I mean, this non-conference schedule, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team. What was the thought? What was the mindset when you were putting together this schedule? Because I mean, it looks pretty different than a year ago's.
Well, it's probably the most challenging schedule that we've played, and I think it's all about relevance. We have been a top 10 program 5 out of the last 6 years. At least at some point, we got ranked in the top 10.
Sure,
and I'm very proud of that consistency. But to do that, you've got to be good, and you got to play against really good people. We may have overdone it a little bit to have Baylor and Notre Dame in New York. And Notre Dame is different in New York. I mean, if I was playing Notre Dame in South Dakota, it'd be no big deal. I got to play them in Brooklyn where they've got, thousands and thousands of alums.
Right.
That's 2 really tough opponents right out of the gate, especially with so many new players. But I think what it does is it gets your guys ready earlier. Our guys have been excited all fall, and we're anxious to play this kind of schedule.
Yeah. Coach, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck this season.
Okay, Zach. Thanks to be with you. War Eagle.